Good morning, afternoon, evening, gorgeous people. How are you all doing today? I hope you're well. I'm well, still indoors. The weather at the moment, it's a bit nuts making. Rain, howling wind, cold. I haven't been to the plot for ages, 3 weeks or so. I'm sort of dreading what I might see when I get back there, but I'm hoping, excuse me, in the next couple of days to get down there. I need to do some harvesting. Oh, parsnips, yay, because we've had frost now, so they should be gorgeous and sweet if there's anything below the soil. Anyway, yeah, so I've been continuing with things at home, all sorts of things, myriad things. I finished my declutter now. At the end of that last video, was it the last video? I feel like I haven't seen you for ages. And I said I was going to sort of go through the bureau. And yes, I was right. There was nothing really to throw away or donate on, but it did need a bit of a tidy up. I really needed a tidy up. It's great. I've got it way more organised now. So my bottom drawer is all my sort of art stuff. So it's my paints and all my different kinds of papers and things. So that's lovely. But whilst I did it, a couple of things came up which I'm going to share with you in a second. I've also been really sticking to my thing of whatever I'm doing gets to 10 o'clock in the evening, I stop. Doesn't matter how much is on my to-do list still to do, I stop. So that from 10 until midnight, sometimes a bit later, that's my relaxation time. Relax now. So it's been mostly reading. I'm going to share another book with you today, but it's prompted some memories of one of my former lives, as has one of the things that was in the bureau. That's another former life that I'm going to share with you. But there have been a few evenings where I've got a little handful of DVDs that I haven't watched. One of them you might recognise. So I've had a few evenings where 10 o'clock, boom, right, I'm going to watch a film. But unlike when I'm reading, that's completely immersive. But when I'm watching a film and I'm just sitting on the sofa, I think, I should be doing something. And the urge to continue working is so strong. So what I've been doing is processing the lavender. I finally started processing this year's harvest of lavender. And that's lovely because it's such a quiet thing to do whilst enjoying a film. It is relaxing. Of course, the smell is, what a great thing to do before bedtime. So I'm watching a film, creating this smell, and so far, you wouldn't believe it, but that's about half a kilo of lavender. I reckon I am about a third, nudging up towards halfway through the harvest. That represents, you're not going to believe this, about 8 hours work. It's crazy, isn't it? So I was thinking about this and I was thinking I might have to just increase the cost of the lavender bags a little bit this year or next year when I do them. Only by sort of 50p a pound or so, but yeah, it's hours and hours. I hadn't really ever properly thought about the time for all the different stages. So anyway, yeah, that's been lovely to do. And of course, the smell is just, it's insanely good. This cold, I don't know what is going on. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit sniffy again today. So yes, good relaxation. I'm going to show you a couple of things to do that in a second. But just before I go into that, yes, because I've been getting sort of emails, phone calls, whatever, from family and friends to say, Vivi, have you received your parcel? Because normally, whether it's Christmas or birthday or, you know, any occasion, whatever, if I receive a parcel, even if it's in, say, like at this time of year, even if it's well in advance of Christmas, I will usually drop that person a quick line, email, whatever, or give them a quick call on the phone to say, oh, the parcel's come today, thank you, I'm going to be good, I'm setting it aside, whatever. So a few sort of family and friends, because they've not heard from me, have said, have you received your parcel? No. So I think I'm back to Groundhog Day for last Christmas. Some of you may not have been watching at that stage, so I'll quickly recap. Last Christmas, I had post on something like the 3rd and the 10th of December, and then nothing until right the way into January. And I'm on a sort of a local community Facebook group, and people were saying, have you had mail? Have you had... And they were saying, no, staff are off sick. It was maddening, and one of the things that was upsetting was because, you know, half of my Christmas didn't arrive, including my mum had sent me a nut roast, not cooked, one to make myself, all the ingredients, put it together, whatever, a Christmas pudding, and some treats, some edible treats for Christmas. I didn't get them until the 10th of January. I'm not going to eat a Christmas pudding on the 10th of January. I ate it in February. Anyway, so it looks like that's happening again this year. So I haven't had any post since sometime in the last week of November. I know that there are parcels on their way to me. And look, you know, I know that people get sick in the winter. Imperfect example of that myself. What I don't understand, and it's like I was saying last year, I don't understand why someone else, let's say John does my round, and let's say Pete does the round further up the hill. Why can't, if John is off sick, why can't Pete on one day, just one day a week, do John's round? So that at least we get mail one day a week. And okay, up the hill, they would have one day a week where they didn't get mail, but one day of not getting mail, it's no big deal, is it? You know, it's because it's not just Christmas. It's things like, you know, waiting on important documents. So annoying. I just don't understand that attitude of, well, he's off sick, so we just completely abandon all those people. It's that analogy I was saying last year of, you know, when I was working as a nurse, if a colleague called in sick, we didn't just leave their patient, completely just leave them for the day or a week. One of the other nurses would cover that workload. Of course we would. So yeah, I think I'm going to write a little letter to the manager of our sorting office to say, you know, I'm sorry you've got a staff off sick, I hope they get better soon. And, you know, I genuinely do. This isn't about me being angry with people being ill, the individuals. This is me being really fed up with the management. Don't just abandon us all. You know, it's not like I live in some remote, isolated place where there have been landslides and trees down and I'm completely cut off. That would be understandable. I live in London. I live down the road from where the rounds are still being done. It's just really disappointing at this time of year, isn't it? To, you know, it's the time of year when we like to send each other little bits and pieces and just be in touch. And I think it's especially true, I find it especially true living on my own. It's nice to have that because then as I open cards or gifts, I feel like I'm with that person. Anyway, right, so now talking of post offices, I've got to share this with you. This tickled me. I was at the post office a couple of days ago sending off a parcel of books from my shop. And on this occasion, they're going to Ireland. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm very friendly with all the post office staff where I live. They're a really lovely bunch of people. There are 4 of them in rotation who, you know, sort of manage the counters, as it were. And they're all my favourites. Actually, no, there's a 5th one as well. She's sometimes there. Anyway, they're all my favourites. Get on great. They're always asking me, you know, what am I harvesting? What recipes am I doing? Or, you know, if it's the spring, they'll say, oh, what should I be planting? It's so funny. I'm like their garden advisor, like I know anything. But anyway, yeah, so we chat about the garden, and obviously they know about my little online shop business. So they always ask what's in the parcel. They always have to ask, what does the parcel contain? You know, just from a safety point of view. And I never post anything that's not allowed. I think things like batteries and some fluids and that sort of thing aren't allowed. If there's no queue, if there's no one else around and they're all looking a bit bored, I might make them guess what's in the parcel. Anyway, so on this occasion she said, what's in the parcel? I said books. And normally that's like, she's hardly even listening to my answer because books aren't prohibited. But on this occasion, I'd said that there were books, and she said, what kind of books? I'd never had that asked. So I was sort of having to rack my brain about what I'd literally made that parcel up about half an hour before. And I stood there for the life of me, I couldn't remember what was in there. I was like, what if I just put... I was like, oh. And I was like, no. And I thought, well, I know it's going to be cookery or gardening or a crafting book, something like that. So I said, and as I was trying to remember, she pulled a little slip out from underneath her sort of rubber mat. She was looking at a list, and I said, it's cookbooks and gardening books. And she said, oh, that's fine. And I was like, what's on your list? Are there prohibited books to Ireland now? I'd never heard of this. And she said, yeah, we've got a list of prohibited things. And I said, well, I don't sell anything that's kind of political or that's maybe got like a religious slant that could be upsetting. And I was just trying to think, you know, what on earth could offend my friends in Ireland? And she said, no, it's not that, it's something else. And I was like, what? Now, there were a couple of people in the queue behind me. The queue was moving. The other 2 windows were open. And she said, and she started sort of giggling. And I said, oh, is it? And I didn't know how to describe it. So I said, oh, is it? And then I kind of did a motion on my boobs. So they're all laughing. And the lady next door went, yeah, it's top shelf. So we're all going, top shelf. Everyone's laughing. So yeah, anyway, it made me chuckle. Hope it makes you chuckle too. So yeah, I better not sell any books to Ireland. Like random. Yeah, so if next time I'm sending a parcel of books to Ireland, I'll make a mental note of what they are so that when I get to the counter, I can just rattle it off straight away. I love those staff. They're so sweet and friendly and really hard-working. And, you know, I've heard... There are times I'm in the queue and I can hear a customer being really shouty and aggressive with them, and it's something that's completely beyond the control of that person serving at the counter. And I just think, oh, can we all please just remember that, yay, that's a human, going back to that thing of wanting to have humans, not machines. And yes, we all get frustrated and angry with things at times. Oh my goodness, talking of getting angry and frustrated, this might have to be a video of 2 halves. So, at the end of month 55, and I was saying how finally I had managed to get the electricity company that my great aunt used, I'd finally managed to get them to concede that there had been an issue and that they owed us a really quite substantial refund in the hundreds of pounds. So they'd agreed to that. Great. And I don't know if this is part of the postal thing because I've not been getting bills. But so that was agreed about the middle of November, and they'd said that refund should appear in your account sort of beginning of December. So I'd been checking my account every couple of days to see that had been refunded. No, it hadn't. And one day I went to check. Not only did it not been refunded, oh yeah, this was right at the end of November because I then did get a bill. Not only had it not been refunded, they'd taken 250 quid out of my account to pay for the previous month's electricity. 1 month of lecky, 250 quid. Here, that would take me 10 months, getting on for a year. And you know, I'm working from home, the lights are on, you know, the iron's on, or the sewing machine's on, the computer's pretty much always on, I've got the radio on, I've got 2 extra freezers, I've got 3 freezers plugged in, a fridge, I was like, what, are you crazy? And it was the same day I had a bill, not a bill, but a letter from the electricity company that came through to say, because the prices have gone up, my £250 per month is no longer going to be enough. They have to increase my direct debit. And I was like, well, right, I'm fuming now. I'm fuming. So I get on the phone. Of course, I was on the phone for I was on hold for half an hour. Finally get through to someone. Explained, you know, as succinctly as I could, and she said, oh, you need to speak to such and such. I'll just put you through. I was then on hold for 55 minutes. Finally got through to someone. And I've got to say, the people that I've spoken to have been really lovely. I've got no complaints about how they've spoken to me or tried to deal with it. But somewhere along the line, the arse ain't speaking to the elbow. Oh, excuse me, that's a bit rude. But yeah, one part's not speaking to the other. So I said, you know, there's no way an empty property with nothing plugged in apart from one small night storage heater just to keep the place out. There's no way. So she because it's a smart meter, they can get the meter reading straight away. And she calculated it all, and she said, oh yeah, it should only have been £12. So she said, oh yes, we'll bring your direct debit down to the correct amount. And I said, what about the refund? She said, oh no, well the company likes you to leave that there in case your bills go up over the winter. So I was saying to her, look, the bills are not going to go up. I want that money back. It's my money. Give that money back to me. So hopefully, so they've promised now not only that original refund, but the 250 quid direct debit they just took out at the beginning of December. Hopefully that is all now coming back to me. I mean, I just don't want to hold my breath though, because I thought I'd got this sorted out 4 weeks ago. It's that sheer waste of time of between the 2 lots of hold and then the longer conversation with the second person that I needed to speak to. It was slightly over 2 hours. That's 2 hours that I could be sewing in order to sell something to make a bit of money to pay me bills. Anyway, I hope that's all done now. Yeah, here's hoping. Completely different subject. When I was coming back from the post office, we've got a little charity shop, but it's quite big, specifically for furniture. And it's always been known that it was going to be a temporary shop because the property it's in was for sale. It's a sweet old property, single story. I'm a bit devoed about this actually. It's going to be knocked down and have flats built, I think to 3 stories. But it is going to alter, because I can see it from outside my flat. I mean, it's literally just over there. It is going to alter the skyline, which is a shame, but, you know, there we go. Anyway, it's coming back from the post office. And I saw in the window, big sign, closing down sale. So I wanted to just pop in anyway to basically get the gossip. Is it finally happening? Is the development going ahead? Da, da, da. And as I walked in, I saw this really cute item of furniture. I would have done great, not necessarily for this kitchen, but, you know, for when I move. It's like the top half of a dresser. I think what in the States you call a hutch. But yeah, so imagine the top half of a dresser. So it's this sort of complete, so it's got a top, sides, bottom, inward, 3 shelves, and then across the very bottom, 4 little drawers. Now, it's kind of slightly ugly in so much as it's a sort of a yellowy orange looking wood. It's just the varnish. But in terms of shape, size, style, really, really, really cute. The kind of thing that you could just sand off all that hard varnish and leave it bare or paint. They were selling it for a tenner. £10. Are you kidding me? That's the sort of thing around here that even, you know, in our sort of junky furniture shops would be at least 50, if not 100. I was like, oh my goodness, that is an absolute bargain. So I'd gone in to sort of say goodbye to the staff and what have you. And I saw this and I thought, oh my God, I didn't have £10 in my bank account, so I couldn't use my cash card. I had about £3 in my purse. I don't have any money. It's like, I looked and I looked and I thought, you know what? Because here in the kitchen, I've got 3 shelves. Now, the cost of the timber, because you have to have good timber for your shelves so they don't bow, the cost of the timber and all the brackets to get them up on the wall was way more than 10 quid. So I thought, oh, this is too good to miss. So I came home and I raided my penny jar. Now, I didn't count out £10 in pennies. My penny jar also fits 20p pieces. Excuse me. So I tipped it out, counted. And as I said, I think I had about £3 in my purse. So, but in any case, I counted out 10 quid in 20p pieces. Okay, down the stairs. Now, the shop is on the other side of the road to where I live, and it's also on a T-junction, it's big main junction, scary traffic. So I pressed the pedestrian crossing button to wait for the little green man to appear. And I was singing, oh, you're being so naughty, spending £10, but it's an investment. It's actually going to save me money later on. Da, da, da. As I'm stood there grinning, and then I suddenly thought, oh my God, how am I going to carry it home? It's not that far. Even if I have to move it one, stop, move it one. Someone will probably offer to give me a hand because, you know, it's a nice neighbourhood. So I'm stood there getting all excited. And then saw someone else walking out of the shop with it, taking it around, and their car was parked up the road a little bit. I was like, no, that's my shelf. Anyway, the lights turned, the green man appeared, so I could trot across the road. And this person, I could see them sort of half getting into the back of the boot of their car. And I said, oh, excuse me asking, did you just buy this shelf? Thinking maybe they're taking it to another shop. And she said, yeah. And I was like, oh, it's lovely. Well done. What a great bargain. Good on you. Ah! Oh, well, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. Quel dommage. Eek, I think I've been rattling on for quite a while already, so I think this will have to be in 2 because I want to show you a couple of things. But what I'm not quite ready to finish yet because I want to tell you about one thing. But before I do that, oh my goodness, Vivi, get your thoughts together. Just want to say thank you to Sarah for, Sarah sent me this. Oh, sorry, there we go. Lovely card. This is from Q, and this is the sorry, I'm holding it up the wrong way. That's the right way. The Chihuly glass at Q. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful glass. And it just immediately reminded me of that fantastic day out I had there in, it must have been, it was the autumn, it was September 2019. I went with Richard and Paul. It was Richard's birthday, and they're members of Q, so they can take a guest in for free for the day. It was just lovely. I hadn't been to Q for probably 20 years, possibly even longer. Oh, it's wonderful. And this glass, that's all huge glass sculptures dotted all around Q, were stunning. I mean, some of them weren't necessarily to my taste, but one couldn't help but be, wowed by them all. I did make a couple of videos from that day. I should do a little cardy thing, shouldn't I, if you didn't see them. There were two videos, because one was mainly focusing on vegetables, the growing spaces. Oh my goodness, there are tomatoes, not a sign of blight on any of them, whopping great bulbs of fennel, just beautiful. And then the other one was more about the buildings and the architecture around the place. Absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend you have a watch. Yeah, I'll do that linky thing up there. So thank you so much to Sarah for that. Yeah, lovely memories. Now, one of the things in the bottom of my bureau, this is an envelope full of cards from when I left my nursing job. I tucked them away safely. It's the sort of thing I do like to keep. They don't take up much room, but I haven't looked at or read them since I left. So I did. Oh, they got me a little bit tearful in places, but one of the cards, it's one of those kind of big cards that everyone writes in. Sorry you're leaving. I'm sure some people are like, not sorry you're leaving. No, I don't think so. Just little bits. And someone had put in their comment, referring to a little incident that had happened, which I'm going to relate to now, because it was funny. I was mortified at the time. So, where I worked, you all know this by now, well, maybe not, but essentially working with children having bone marrow transplants, either because they are born without an immune system or because they have leukemia. So, very small ward. Each room is an isolation room. There's an airlock, so when you go into the room, you don't go into the room, you go into a sort of a cubicle where the air gets exchanged. It's all very, all about their immunology. Anyway, so it's the kind of hospital where everyone becomes very, very, very specialist. It's sort of very narrow specialisation. So although, and this, doctors and nurses and healthcare assistants, although we all have a good grounding of everything, we do become really narrow and focused. So for instance, if things like, one of my friends used to be was on one of the cardiac wards, completely different specialisation, but I hadn't, half the stuff she used to, I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue what goes on in that ward. But I still obviously have to know about cardiac issues, because that can sometimes impact the kids I'm looking after. Anyway, there was one particular sort of period of time where I was looking after a little chap. Let's call him Stevie. So I'm looking after little Stevie. He's had his transplant. He'd had his transplant about, 6 or 7 weeks beforehand. Hadn't been doing too well. There were possibly some sort of rejection issues. And he'd been deteriorating, bless his little soul. So for the previous 2 weeks or so, every time I was on shift, I was allocated him as my patient. And we would normally be allocated 2 patients, sometimes 3. Like I was saying about the postal workers, if a colleague was off sick, I'd end up with 3 patients. But generally, we all look after 2 patients. But his needs were becoming more and more heavy and complex. So it was at the stage where he was being nursed 1-to-1. So he's my only focus all day, every day, my priority. And on that particular day, I remember really early in the morning, I'd got to work, I'd had my handover, I went in to just go and assess where things were at with him. And I thought, I don't like how he looks today. And bear in mind, you know, pretty much every shift since his transplant, I'd had him as a patient. I wasn't happy. So it was, I don't know, it's 8:30 in the morning, even really before, you know, things had got going on the ward. I buzzed our consultant to say, I want you to come and have a look at Stevie, I'm not happy. And our doctors are great. They know that none of us are going to bother the doctors unless we're really, you know, concerned. So if a nurse says, I'm concerned, the doctors, they drop whatever they're doing, they come. So he came in, assessed and agreed with me that neurologically things didn't seem right. So don't worry, by the way, the story's got a happy ending. Anyway, so obviously I'm in and out of the room all day, administering drugs, blood transfusion at one point, and like really close monitoring and observation of him. And I don't know, it got to about 2:00 and I thought, this little chap's deteriorating. Got our consultant back in and he said, yeah, I'm not happy either. Let's call neuro. So the great thing in that hospital is, because there are all these different specialisations all over the hospital, there is a neurology department. So I called them and asked to speak to whoever was, you know, whichever senior doctor was on that day. And it's actually their consultant. Explained the situation. I said, you know, can you come over to the ward and have a look at him? I said, yeah, of course. And he was great. He came over straight away, assessed our patient and said, yeah, okay, good call. And there was some drugs he wanted to add in. We'll add those in. And most prescribing is done on the computer, so I can just look on my iPad. Anyway, so that was all done. And then it must have been, I don't know, sort of 4:00 or so in the afternoon. I still wasn't happy. So rang back to this consultant and I explained, I'm not happy, I'm going to do all his bloods, and then if I do it now, hopefully we can get results before the shift change and we can have a look at bloods. So got all his bloods done and took him off to the labs, and it depends what kind of bloods you're having looked at, but there can be anything from like a sort of half an hour to a 4-hour turnaround to get results. So it was about 7:30 in the evening, and we officially finished work at 8:15. 7:45 until 8:15 is handover. The first 15 minutes of handover, 7:45 to 8:00, is done off the ward. The nurse in charge briefs the incoming night shift of every single patient. So everybody's got a good awareness of what's going on with every patient. Then the incoming staff come onto the ward about 8:00, and it's at that point that we do an individual handover in more detail. So it's about 7:30. And usually at that stage in the day, we try to have, you know, all the drugs that need hanging, everything that is putting up is done, everything's under the way, kids are all settled, starting to get into sort of bedtime routine. And it's at that point that we sit down at the nurses' station and start to write up myriad notes. So I was at the nurses' station, 7:30, started to write up my notes, and I'm sat by one of the computers because I've got my finger permanently on a button to refresh my blood results section for this particular patient. So I'm doing that, writing my notes, doing that today. And then the blood results come up at 7:30. And I can see immediately where one of the issues is, and it will need, it needs a correction, it needs prescribing. So I thought, I'm really glad I've got that spotted right now, because we can hopefully get it sorted and underway even before the night shift come on. So I immediately called back to the neurologist. And sorry, this is a bit of a long-winded one. I don't know why I made it so long-winded. Anyway, I called back to the neurology ward to say, can I speak to the consultant? Let's call him Mr. Bob. Can't remember his name. Can I speak to Mr. Bob? He came on the phone. I said, hi, it's Vivi on Dodo ward. We need a potassium correction. I just got the results back. So he said, oh, hang on a sec. So he brought them up on his computer too, and he said, yeah, okay, good call. Let's get that prescribed. Now, unlike most other drugs that are done on the computer, so we look on the computer screen, a potassium correction is a really, I was going to say it's a dangerous thing to give. It can be a dangerous thing to give. It affects our hearts. So it's one of the like really, I mean, everything, all drugs are checked, but this one is like a gazillion-ty, quadruply checked. So many people have to check. And it's always written by hand. It's always a hand-done prescription on a special card. So he said, oh, okay, I'll get on with writing up the prescription. And I said, okay, well, you know, I may not see you this evening, but, you know, obviously that's going to be the first thing I hand over. Thank you very much. Chat. Finish up the chat. About to put the phone down. Now, bear in mind, all my colleagues are sitting around. They're all doing their notes as well. So I said, thank you very much. I love you. What? And there was just this moment of silence, and then all my colleagues falling off their chairs, laughing like hyenas, going, oh, I love you. I don't know where it came from. I mean, you know, obviously if I'm speaking to my sister, I get to the end of the phone call and say, love you, love you. So I just said love you to this nerdy kind of like way up high consultant. It was so embarrassing. It didn't end there though. So I had this split second of just being utterly mortified because, you know, how unprofessional apart from anything else. Anyway, so it got to about 5 to 8 and the night shift staff all came on. And because this child's care was really quite complex, the nurse who is going to look after him for the night was also going to be just nursing him one-to-one. I took us into the IV room. It's the room where we make up all the IV drugs and get all our bags prepped for hanging. I took in there so that we could have a bit of quiet and really concentrate. So I'm going through what needs doing, and I'm aware of the noise out on the ward. I'm aware of the nurses all handing over to each other, and if a buzzer goes, is it my patient? Do I need to get back to my pet? Whatever it is, phone goes. A couple of seconds later, one of my colleagues put her head round the door and she said, oh, Vivi, your boyfriend's coming down to the ward with the prescription. Oh, God. So the nurse I was handing over to, I was like, I can't face him. Tell him I've gone. I'm not here. I've gone already. You get the prescription. And she's going, no, you're going to do it. Because, of course, by now, the whole night shift knows as well that I've told someone over the phone that I love them. So, anyway, this is so unprofessional. The doorway, there's kind of like a glass panelling, so you can always see out into the ward. I saw him come on to the ward and he was back to me at the nurse's station. I just couldn't face him. It's ridiculous. Now, we just had a big delivery. The porters, our fantastic porters, have just brought a delivery of loads of boxes, or quite big boxes filled with sort of bags of saline, bags of glucose, all those really heavy things. And they were just in this big stack. So I saw him, I ducked down behind the boxes, like, I'm not here. Because I'd said to all the guys on the nurse's station as well, please tell them I'm not here. I was just so mortified. But anyway, so I ducked down and then I hear the IV room door open. They've sent him into the IV room to find me. So then I had to come up from behind the boxes and go, oh, hi, I just got my, my thing. Oh, is that the prescription? Just trying to concentrate. Okay, concentrate on the prescription now. The patient, the child, like, okay, I'm back to professional. That's really important. Brings the prescription in. I check over it. Then I have to ring the ward pharmacist because the ward pharmacist has to check it too. And I say to him, thank you so much for coming over so quickly today. Thanks so much for getting this prescription written up so quickly. I'm not in tomorrow, but if obviously I'm going to hand this over, if they want to speak to you tomorrow, I'm sure they'll call you, trying to be professional. Aware at the same time, because I can see through the door, that every single nurse at the nurses' station is like, looking through the door, doing all this. Anyway, he left. And just as the door shut behind him, the whole place, every single nurse, the night shift, the day shift, everyone who was around was just laughing like stupid little hyenas again. Absolute idiots, the lot of them. It reminds me of, I think, is it the baboons or something in Jungle Book, or some kind of Disney hyenas or whatever, just cackling like idiots. Yeah, my colleagues. So I just want to say very quickly that little Stevie, he got better and he got so well that he did eventually get to go home, and is to this day, because I do hear little catch-ups, he's doing fine. But yeah, that I can see that memory so clearly in my mind just from looking at the words on that card. I didn't live that down for a long time. I mean, literally, if ever I was on the phone to someone and I put the phone down, a colleague would say, oh, but you didn't tell them you love them. I know, it seems like such a small, insignificant thing now, doesn't it? But I think it's it's a reflection of how, our colleagues, it's such a tight community, and we become pretty much like a family, a weird family, but a really, really tight community, because, most days are super serious and super stressful, and I think it's one of those things where if there's one little thing that's a little bit funny, that maybe we overreact to how funny something is just because of all that bottled up stress and tension. Yeah, that's a very happy memory. A happier memory even more so because of such a great outcome for the kid in the end. So, I didn't mean to rattle on so much. There's a pile of stuff here I was going to talk about and show you, but that can wait for another video. I might film it straight away and pop it out in a couple of days, we'll see. But for now I'm going to say thanks for hanging out with me today, listening to me burbling on about absolutely nothing, but just life and little moments of joy. There's always a little moment of joy somewhere. Sometimes you have to look quite hard, but yeah, you can find them. If they're not necessarily apparent, go looking for them. Lavender and loveliness. All right, gorgeosities. I'll see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, please look after yourselves. Stay snug if it's chilly outside. If you can get to your garden, go. Don't be like me. I'm such a hermit at the moment. I'm going to have to force myself, I think. But once I've forced myself, I'll love it. I hope. Beautiful people. Soon, I don't know where or when, but soon we shall meet again here via this fabulous medium of social media. But until then, cheerio.